Hey guys, we're doing something new. Welcome to our very first episode of Sisterhood or Success and Sisterhood. So this is very unorthodox, and we are still super excited about it, and just really sharing some private conversations that we've been having with you all publicly, and we know that God is doing something in the lives of all of us in business. And we just hope that out of this episode and out of the many lives that we do after this, that you find you some sisters to walk in your success with. So go ahead, Destiny.
What is up, family queens? Listen, I'm excited to be a part of this because these are necessary conversations that we have, not just you and me in private, but that I know many women have and deal with, but we don't always have a sacred, safe space to share and talk about it. Success can be lonely. Not having sisters can be lonely. Trying to do it alone is lonely, but it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be like that. So I'm excited about the conversation.
Yeah, me too. Just diving right into it. Um, we thought that we were getting together to do a summit. We thought we were getting together to do a summit, and we shared. And I don't know if you remember this, like during the taping, I was telling you that there are things in my business that were working that are not working anymore. It's like I have to do a whole new strategy and I have to change things. And you were like, "You think you're the only one?
Girl.
You ain't the only one." And in that moment, it just felt so freeing. It felt so safe because although you achieve a certain level of success, we're at a place right now, we've been talking about it, where we know that the stuff that used to work is not working anymore. I mean, like, I think that God is making it impossible for us to go alone in this season. Even from the pandemic time, you could just do lives and streams, and your inbox will be filled up, and you getting clients and you selling courses. And I think now that we are out of pandemic time, people want to see you in person. Or some of them have been misled by so many people that they like, I want to see if you're real. The buying process is longer. The economy is changing. And for those people who are in this, not just to make money, but also to make an impact and to make a difference, we are really like putting our ears toward heaven. Like, okay, God, what is happening right now? And from what I see, only collaboration is going to get you to the next destination. I feel personally for me that I've gone as far as I'm going to go by myself. And that requires me to not only be open to what God is going to do, but also to be very strategic in terms of who I'm walking with, and also make sure that the very healed me is showing up. So that is, I mean, years ago, I wouldn't be able to do this because I didn't even know how to be a sister. That's a whole nother thing. But now that I know how to be a sister, and now that I'm emotionally intelligent enough to communicate what it is that I need, and I also know what I don't want, I'm ready for this. And so this season is not a scary season. This is an exciting season.
Yeah. Yeah. You said something, well, you said a lot of stuff that was so key, but for me, one of the biggest things was the healed version of me. Because in seasons past, my traumas and my defense mechanisms and my self-preservation would not have allowed me to feel like I needed sisterhood. Like I'm good. I've been doing this alone this long. I don't need nobody now. Cause you get into relationship, friendship with people and they, let you down or they're not who they supposed to be. And so that creates traumas and that creates these cycles of self-preservation that it looks like it's working for a while. It is working to a certain extent, but when God has a purpose in the earth, when he has an agenda, he will, it's just like when he sent Elijah there was a famine in the land. And again, he prophesied the famine, but at the same time, he still was affected by it. He sent him to the brook All right, that's gonna work for a little bit, but now I'm gonna dry that up because I need to get you somewhere else. And if I don't dry that up, or if I don't allow that to no longer work for you, you will stay there and think that you are in my will. And so
Yeah.
when things, aren't working the way they used to, is because God is taking us from faith to faith, from glory to glory, and it's required. Otherwise, we will stay comfortable, we'll stay settled, my four, no more, and we won't reach the people that we're called to because we're comfortable with complacency.
Yeah.
So that comes with healing too.
Yeah.
When it's not working out the way you feel like it should. Well, God, I done this. This should be like, I should be good. Like, why are you making me do this, or why are you leading me here? I was fine where I was. And
Yeah.
healing the part of you that feels like, God should do things the way we want him to do them, or way they should be done, and just leaning into him. So connecting with you and being open to that collaboration, even though it wasn't what we thought it was. God knew he has to do whatever he needs to do to
Yes.
get us connected. Whatever
And
it is.
also, you saw in that day, you saw the most unpolished version of me.
Wow.
So, I mean, it's almost as if I was forced into vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
So I there are certain things that I thought that were together that weren't, and certain things that didn't come together the way that I thought. And so, the vulnerable me had to go and communicate with you and say, "Hey, this is what's going on. This is how things usually are, but this is what is happening today." And it's almost as if that part set the stage for even this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you were talking about how past relationships, I think about past relationships so differently now. I used to think like, oh, this person did this to me and this person did that to me. All now when I look at it, those people were just growing. That was growing pains. They were going through they did what they knew to do at the time. But what happens is when you get people together, especially when it comes to women, sometimes people trigger your trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what makes you want to draw back or say she not this, or and oftentimes when women sit down to do a sisterhood thing, I see it time and time again. They rarely ever know how to be sisters.
Mm-hmm.
Like is not even the foundation of the thing is not. They can have a surface level relationship, but they can't even be vulnerable. And
Yeah.
so, as we are going into this new season where we know that we're not supposed to go alone, where we know that going alone has gotten us as far as we want to go, and we can't hide behind Zoom, and we can't hide behind the reels, and we can't just keep showing the highlights and get people to sign up, but people really want to know who you are. That's when it comes to a point where you have to do some real work on yourself so you can not only be who you say you are, but show up as the most healed version of yourself so that you can be welcoming to the people that God is putting in your space. And I'm so grateful. Like I'm telling you, I'm doing work on myself.
Yeah.
Like not just in the gym. And I mean, we doing work on ourselves, going to therapy. Okay. Like we praying and we going to therapy in this season.
Yeah.
We're
Christ.
reading books, like we're reading books and we're praying and we going to the gym for mental health. We
Mm-hmm.
are having tough conversations, putting up boundaries and loving Jesus at the same time in
Mm-hmm.
this space that we're in. And so I'm just so glad that, and I always say this with God, he always uses me to create what I need.
Mm-hmm.
What I needed. Like it's like you needed this.
Yeah.
Create it. And I'm so glad that we are creating a space for a woman to be not only called but healed and anointed to go forth.
Yeah.
Before I stop here, I want to. I was watching Sometimes I be scrolling on the internet. You know how your For You page stuff just comes up. And this morning, this is what happened this morning. I just feel led to share this, right? Um, and this is no condemnation. Not that you need to feel condemnation, but this is how you have to know that people are perceiving you and looking at you. So a episode of Real Housewives of whatever, it might be Atlanta, showed up on my timeline. Because sometimes I watch funny videos before I go to bed just for a nightcap and to crack up, right?
I'll do
And
that.
sometimes we be sitting there watching videos of dogs saying I love you and all of that stuff, like just cracking up. So this one thing came across my timeline last night or this morning, and it was Phaedra Parks, and nothing against Phaedra.
Mhm.
And they were like on a beach somewhere, and all of the girls were together, and Phaedra was speaking in tongues over another girl. Like something happened and the Holy Spirit kicked in. And I could tell it wasn't no fake tongues, right? And so the ladies on the other side of the beach was like, this is too much. This is too much. It's clear that God don't speak to her, because she was just cussing us out. And then after that, it showed like clips of her character before then. I promise y'all, I'm going somewhere. Now, being prophetic and having a high level of discernment, I can tell that when she was speaking in tongues, that was genuine. And sometimes for some of you in business, when you're speaking and when you're coaching, the anointing is on you. You're doing your thing. But to think that people are not going to check your character outside of that,
Mhm.
to validate whether or not that thing that you do is real, that's just, they are going to do that. And
Yeah.
so for us, if you're doing a sisterhood event, learn how to be a sister. If,
Mm.
if you're teaching women how to show up, you got to show up yourself. And if you're teaching people to be accountable, you need to have accountability in your own life. And so I think that we are at the place now where people are not just listening what you say, they watching how you live.
That's
And so
true.
even those unhealed parts of you that are like, I'm gonna get to that later. God is like, no, baby, you're gonna have to deal with that now, because that's keeping doors closed for you when I want to open up the floodgates for you. That's it. That's all I wanted to say about that.
Yeah, it goes back to the fruit. What fruit are you producing? Because people see one thing, but if you get to the root, their root is rotten. Their
Yeah.
root is not healed.
Yeah.
No matter what you're producing, at some point, when people get close enough to it, they realize, it's like some not right. And again, that's a matter of the heart. We
Yeah.
don't get deep to the heart. We go surface because we see outward success, but we don't see the inward suffering of what we're not addressing and what we're dealing with. So that's good.
Yeah. And just unapologetically, like going through sometimes you just gotta heal out loud.
That's true.
And you just gotta say, like, I mean, not in every space. You do need sisters. Lord
Yeah,
have mercy, you do.
it's gonna cover
Like,
you so that you
but
know.
everybody needs a space to heal out loud. Everybody needs, and I think I'm that for so many people because I didn't have that.
Yeah.
You know, one of the what really made me start saying I'm not okay? When Ellen DeGeneres, the guy Twitch from her show, killed himself.
Yeah. Wow.
Like, something about that just did something to me. Because I just watched so many people say he was just so fun and he was just full of laughs and he was just full of joy and he impacted us like this and he called his mother before or whatever they said. And I'm just like, nobody knew. He got to the point where he hit it so well. It's so dangerous not to have a safe space. To the point where, because when people commit suicide, and I promise y'all, I ain't trying to trigger y'all, but when people do that, it's because they don't see no way out. They just need somebody to tell them that is a way out. And to know that somebody that was loved by so many couldn't go to one and learn that there was a way out was like, oh my gosh, it don't pay to be strong. You are really just like going and suffering when all you needed was, if you just had one friend, you would still be here. And so all of us that are on here that are listening, everybody has probably suffered with those thoughts at some time or another. Because if you listen this far, you the strong friend.
Yeah.
You the one that everybody think is okay, that nobody checks on, that everybody think you got so many friends, but you don't have that many people that's in your circle where you can really be completely uncovered and they will accept you the way you are. They accept you based on what you can do, what you bring to the table, how you look, who you can introduce them to, but not just the real you. And really, truthfully, and honestly, that is no way to live. It's no way to build a business. It's no way to even experience the true glory of God. And here's the thing, it's going to take work, it's going to take discernment. Throughout the series of time, we are going to talk to you about really how to choose those people, the people that are in your circle. Because I mean, I failed at it. I have. Some people, and I let them in. I told them everything that I was going through, and they threw salt on the wound anyway. But they were still growing as well. And if I'm honest, there were signs that it was going to go that way.
Mm.
It was signs that I didn't even want to see, because I'm like, no, they wouldn't do this, because I told, but still, it's in this season, you're going to need people. You're not going to be able to do it alone. You're going to need a team. And if you're unhealed, you're not going to keep your team long. You're going to be rotating assistants. You know how I know? Because I've done it.
Yeah.
I've done it. I have rotated assistants until I start looking like, okay, like, what is it about you that either keeps hiring this level of people, or what is it about you that puts somebody on a different level than they need to be, and you blur the boundaries? I had to really like talk to myself about this stuff. And so the more healed I am, the more women I can lead, the more successful I can be, the more vulnerable people can be with me, and the more I can help them go in their healing process as well. And so, I'm so glad, like I said, that we're doing this, because we don't. I'm about making money. We gonna teach you how to make some money, but in a way of which you're not suppressing the unhealed parts of yourself.
Right.
And when you have a circle of women around you that you could say, hey, I didn't do what I was supposed to do this week. I don't feel, I'm not feeling my best. And they will, number one, they will encourage you, but they'll keep you accountable to what you said you were going to do and why you said you were doing it. So I know I just said a mouthful. I need something to drink.
No, it's good. And I won't say irony, but for lack of better words, the irony about the situation with Twitch, mine was the thing that gave me even more passion for what I do with women and confidence, self-esteem, was when the young lady Chesley Chrisley, she was the Miss America in New York, and she jumped like, I forgot how many stories from her New York skyrise to her death. Like
Oh
literally,
my
she was beautiful. I mean, had one Miss America, was on TV, on all these shows. She was all these things, and that was nothing. People always say, but she was so pretty, but she was so talented, but she was so charismatic. Not knowing that sometimes those are the main people that suffer in silence the worst. Because if I see you and you look depressed, or I see you and it's kind of obvious. So somebody probably gonna say something, but if I'm hiding it so well and I look like I got it all together, and I don't have people close enough to me to know, okay, something is off. Okay, you know what? I know you can fool my old folks say you can fool some of the people some of the time, but you can't fool all the people all of the time. So to have, what would that have looked like? And not saying that we can change people or control them, but there is a role that we play,
Yeah.
that we have to be able to have those mutually reciprocal relationships.
That's
Mutual
that part.
reciprocal relationships, where when I see Tiona ain't herself, I'm stepping in. When you realize Des ain't herself, I'm stepping in. I'm pulling up. I'm showing up. I'm dialing. And when we don't have that, with self-esteem, I always say it's your sense of self-worth, right? It's your worthiness of yourself, your appraisal. And many people, like when they die by way of suicide, they believe my life was not worth living. I'm like,
Yeah.
nobody in your life that reminded you that you were worth living. Not, here's it, beyond what you do. And
Yeah.
the hard part is we're always seen as objects. We're seen as the prize. We're seen for what we can do, what we can give, who we are to other people, but we're not always seen as the real us. Because I remember suffering with that and being afraid to get close to people. Because in my mind, okay, if they get close enough to me and they see my real struggles, they see what I'm really not proud of, they see what I'm really dealing with, they won't look at me the same. Because I've seen people go, oh, well, you supposed to be this. I thought you was this. Not seeing my humanity, but saying, oh, well, because I'm so used to you always having it together, well, you look like you perfect. I'm not going to show up. At some point, it's your nature to just be who you are. Like something, I don't know how to just show up on social media and be busted and disgusted. I don't like, there's a level, I'll show them, but there's a level I don't know how to just do that. So it doesn't mean that I'm not struggling, I don't suffer with things. It just means that when you're used to being that person and that go-to, it's hard showing weakness, vulnerability. So that's why sisterhood is important. It was a quote that I used on some Instagram, and it said, you deserve people that can celebrate your wins, but also sit with you in your losses.
Yeah, that's good.
When you lose, people leave. So having people that can handle the success, but still be a sister when you suffering.
Yeah, that's really good. You know, in my life, you know, and probably for a lot of the people on here, for most of the time, I've been like a little woman, you know, just taught to, and we talked about this too. You were the responsible one, you were the older one, you were the strong one. And when people ask you how school was today, they really they was expecting for you to say good. And if you said bad, they'd be like, oh child, everything gonna be okay because you good, you know. And and what that teaches you is not to even acknowledge your own needs. Like you're used to, you're playing this role that everything is okay or everything's gonna be okay. And sometimes it's just not. Sometimes it's a process, and sometimes you need people. And I love the conversation that we had when we first decided to be accountability partners, where the conversation went kind of like, when you're going through, what do you do? And when you go through it, what do you need? That's important.
It's so big because working with women, a lot of times we don't even know the answers to those questions. It really takes us to sit and, like, when I ask women, like, what do you actually want? They can even tell you what they want, because you're so used to programming yourself by default to want what everybody else wants. And you accept it as, even like if you're a mom or a wife, sometimes you accept, what's your favorite food? Well, this is what everybody else knows. What do you like? What's your favorite car? What's your, we don't know what we want. We just know what we don't want. I don't want to live like this. I don't want this. I don't want to feel like this. What do you want? What do you need? So when you ask that question, like, how do you need to be loved? How do you need to be sistered? How do you need to have support? It challenged me to sit and ask Destiny, what do you want? What do you want from Tiona as a sister? What do you want from her as a friend? What do you want from her as an accountability partner? What do you want? Because you're so programmed to not putting your needs or wants on the table. You're used to never having to put them on the table because no one really cares. So to have to now put them there is like,
but when you're a fulfilled woman, you can make a big impact. And the thing about it is, what you pretend ain't there is not going away.
That's it.
You're not going to wake up one day and be healed. You're not going to wake up one day and have sisters. And I think as I'm approaching 40, I have natural sisters. But I've realized that just a couple of things about relationships. Some of my biggest challenges in relationships have been taking somebody that was supposed to be in one category and moving them to a friend. Somebody that's a client, moving them to a friend. Somebody that's a mentor, seeing them as a, like, the people that are my iron, I know exactly what they're supposed to look like right now. And it is all of my relationships that are close, in close proximity to people that I'm on the same level, and we really are on the same level. In terms of the relationship being reciprocal. Because sometimes, because we're so programmed not to need stuff, we bring people into our lives that need us a lot. And then we become depleted. So now we move into the part where we talking about what kind of sisters you need. There's nothing wrong with having mentees, but your mentee is not your friend. And the moment that they become your friend, the moment they come to your birthday party at your house, the moment they know where you shop at for your underclothes, the moment they know intricate things about your personal relationship, that people that are on your level, not that we supposed to be putting people on different levels like we're better than them, but level, I mean, because I want to explain. I don't want y'all to be messed up about this. Don't get this misconstrued. Level in terms of what is the relationship supposed to be. So if I'm mentoring somebody, we are not peers. If somebody is mentoring me, I'm not their peer. There are certain things I don't want to know about my pastor. I'm gonna be honest with you. Certain things I'm sure that him and his wife have arguments or whatever, but it's certain things I do not want to know, because this is somebody that I'm going to for a specific thing. Not that I expect them to be perfect, but I think that when you look at even the Bible, when you had the church and you had the inner court, the outer court, and the holies of holies, the people that went into the holies of holies, if they weren't supposed to be in there, they were going to surely die. Yeah. Okay? So you can't let people into your holies of holies when they're supposed to be in the outer court. They're supposed to be outside.
We see this also with Jesus. So it's not about this self. It's not from a place of self-righteousness or indignation for others. We see this with Jesus. Jesus had multitudes that followed him. Multitudes he talked to, he mentored, he poured into, he shared. But then he had the 12. And even before he had the 12, when he said something vulnerable and truthful they could not handle, the others walked away. Unless you eat my blood, eat my flesh and drink my blood. How many people cannot handle that level of and power with him? They walked away. So he turned to the 12 and said, will you go also? And then they said, where else can we go? You are words of eternal life, meaning you are who we need. You are what we need in this season. And even at that, even with the 12, all 12 didn't come with him everywhere.
There's 3.
When he went to the mountain of transfiguration, all 12 of them didn't get to come with him. He only took Jesus. Jesus only took Peter, James, and John.
Yeah.
And then he told them, tell no man what you saw. So we see Jesus, he understood, he treated everybody with love, everyone with respect, but he understood who can have this level of access to me.
Come on.
Even when he showed the holes in his hands. He put them in a room and said, okay, y'all get to see this, but there was still some that still wasn't there.
Yeah.
So you have to be able to know who is called and qualified to see certain seasons of your life or to be in certain spaces of your life. That is wisdom.
Yeah.
A fool feels like because I love everybody, I have to give everybody access to every part of my life. Only a fool would think like that. And I can say that because, baby, I've been the fool. Okay. And then we get upset with them. We hold grudges against them because we mismanaged the access that they should have had. Wow. So they mismanaged the access that they had, but only because we mismanaged the position they should have been in to begin with. Yeah. So we're discerning, and we can only do this by, like you said, one, knowing what do I need, and not choosing from a place of scarcity and desperation. Because if we choose from desperation, then we're more likely to let the wrong people in because we're so desperate to have sisters, or we're so desperate to fit in, or so desperate to be connected that we just let everybody in that seem like they're a nice person. And then when they let us down or betray us, we're mad at them, when I have to ask myself, okay, Destiny, what was it about you that bonded with them to give them that level of access? What emptiness or void were you dealing with that allowed you to not just attract them, because we attract everybody, but allowed you to choose them because you chose them. They didn't, even if they chose, you get to choose. So what is it in you that is not healed that keeps choosing wrong?
Come on now, that right there is, and I think so. As I'm thinking about like success and sisterhood, like you have to start doing the work on yourself in order to recognize these things. I was in a relationship one time with a group of women, and I mean, I've been in relationships with people who have stolen my ideas when I mastermind with them. I was in a relationship with one group of women, and it was one person and it was a part of me that wanted validation. And this is important. Like the part of me that wanted validation, and like every time I would do something, this was years ago, y'all. I ain't the same person, but every time I would do something or wear like a like something like to get my makeup done a certain way, everybody else would be like, it looks good, and that person would be like, you need to just do this. Like never congratulated me. And then it took me years later to see that like a lot of things that I would wear, this person would buy. A lot of things I would do, this person would do. And so I was looking at this person like a confidant, and they saw me as competition. And so that's the reason why I didn't feel right. And that's the reason why I didn't work. And so, but then I had to look at me and say, what is it about me? See, this is the word. This is the word. What is it about me that is wanting this woman who is going through her own process to validate me? And so now I'm very strategic about the women in my life and in my circle, because I want to make sure that I don't give people a key to a door that they should have never even had access to. Mm-hmm. So if you supposed to be listening to me online in a podcast, and that's the door, then that's the door. If you're supposed to be in a room when we have our live event, then that's a different door. If you're supposed to be in a one-on-one coaching program, then that's a different door. And so now it becomes a thing where it's not about who can pay and who applies and who wants to do this. But okay, God, is this my client? Is this my mentee? Is this my executive assistant? Because at this point, I want who you have assigned to the assignment, not who I want.
Yeah.
And I want to, the prayer is that when you bring the sisters, that when you bring the husband, for some of y'all that's not married, okay? And when you bring the pastor, when you bring the opportunity, that I am healed enough to steward it properly. Mm-hmm. to be grateful and gracious enough to accept the assignment and to steward it well. Then that all becomes, how do I work on myself? And so you can't do collaboration well if you're not healed.
Mm-mm. It'll always turn to competition.
Yeah. You're gonna look at oh, well, they doing this, and I'm like, the conversations that me and you have are, it feels like we've been knowing each other intimately for years, because it's just very much and
that's how what we said before, identity. Know our identity. Women who lack identity will always try to find identity in other women. And it will always turn into a toxic relationship. And a lot of times when you lack your identity, you never see yourself as the problem.
That's good.
You're never the problem. It's all, even me, myself, I always take a step back and say, okay, Destiny, what role do you play in this? Even if the offense is not your fault, the healing is your responsibility. So where do we need to take accountability? Where do we need to put the mirror to ourselves and do our own mirror work? Yeah. But whenever you see a person who is always the victim, always the victim, that's an identity crisis. Mm-hmm. Because you're taking on the identity of a victim when that's not always. I have to admit, sometimes I've been the villain and not the victim.
Come on.
Even unintentionally. I've acknowledged, no, Destiny, that was some villainous behavior.
Yeah.
Out of malice. Holding someone to a standard that is unreasonable and then getting upset or offended when they cannot measure up to it, that's pretty villainous.
Yeah.
And it's not an evil trying to be manipulative or trying to be evil, but that's not right. I cannot hold you to a standard to a level that I've not even worked on myself enough with. Yeah, if I'm really healing on the inside and practicing discernment of God and wisdom, the Holy Spirit will tell me, I don't care how good she looks on paper. I don't care how good she looks on the outside. This too can they come. Don't let them come no further. And when we choose not to be discerning to the Holy Spirit, we got to ask, what is that fleshly carnal desire? And it doesn't mean it's evil, but it's the flesh part of us that rises up, that desires something. It's an emotional attachment that we're trying to satisfy. We're trying to suffice because we have not put our flesh under subjection and crucified it and say, what is this unhealedness on the inside of me that keeps creating this cycle? David said, it is me, O Lord. Thee and thee only have I sinned. And we look at sin as the big things. The act of disobedience is sin.
Come
God
on.
is telling us, don't let them into your holies of holies. Don't let them into even the inner court. They are designed for the outer court. And then also understanding that anything, any relationship, any friendship, any partnership, anything that is outside of the will of God will always be a wilderness. I don't care how wonderful it seems in that moment. Anything that you obtained outside the will of God, or that you chose that was not his perfect will, it is yet going to turn into a wilderness. You're going to be wondering what's up because you're in a wilderness.
Y'all, like, it took years for us to learn this stuff. I think two of the greatest lessons that I've learned in relationships, I remember like taking the same test with relationship leaders, people that I mentored, people that was like, it just was a lot. And I went to God and I said, Lord, I'm tired of taking this test. How do I know when I'm supposed to be in a relationship with someone? I think some of y'all need to write this down. The Holy Spirit said to me, Tiona, you cannot be close to anyone who do not know who they are. If they don't know who they are, they cannot be close to you. Because from at one moment they looking up to you, and then the next moment they becoming a carbon copy of you, and then the next moment it becomes comparison, and it's not safe like that. And no matter what we have gone through, it is our responsibility to go through the healing process. And as I watched Dr. Anita Phillips talk about this, she said, if your parent parented you wrong when you were a child, and they came to you and they admitted to everything and apologized to you 20 times, the wounded child at that point is buried so deep that no matter how many times they apologize, it won't heal you. So healing is a decision. Some people think that when you get an apology, or if the person that hurts you come back and say, I'm sorry I did that to you, then that's going to make it all go away. But it's still a process. And it starts with a choice. And it also starts with, like, I don't feel like I lose. I feel like I learn. And when you can go to God and say, what is it about me? What is it about how I looked at this relationship, or how I idolized this relationship, or how I have had women come into my life that were full-blown witches. Y'all, full-blown, in my early prophetic journey, where because I was trying to understand myself and I didn't have no sisters, nobody around me to validate like the dreams that I'm having and the visions that I'm seeing, this woman, I literally almost lost my mind. When I looked around my house, she had given me so many things. It was things in every single room for her to have access to me. See, these are the things that people don't talk about. And this was right before I was discovering who I was. And if it wasn't for my husband being the praying man that he was, or that he is, I probably wouldn't be here today. Because he was able to spot it, and he was able to cover me until I could see my way out of that situation. And so it's so important that you work on the healing. It's so important that you don't look for just acceptance anywhere, that you allow God to bring the people into your life, and then you ask, Lord, who is this? How am I supposed to steward this? How am I supposed to handle it? Because you love everybody, but everybody don't get the same. Everybody don't get the master key. Okay. And so this is like, as we're unpacking this stuff, all these lessons, like after that, it took me a long time to let anybody that was prophet. That's why, look, y'all, just is a whole lot I want to say, but I never judge a prophecy I never judge a prophecy just based on accuracy alone.
Facts.
Never. Because a good lie is just that. It's like 98% true, and then 2% of it is like, that don't make no sense. And that is how that woman was. She knew what I was thinking. She tapped into the spirit. She was seeking concerning me. But when I start to look at her life, and when I started looking at her fruit in the areas that she was giving me advice in, I was like, wait a minute. But that was in hindsight. I didn't see it. And so, again, going back to me, what is it about me? What kind of acceptance am I seeking? What kind of healing do I have to go through? Because here's the thing. If you're stuck in your business, you're stuck in an area of unfulfillment, if you haven't quite stepped into your purpose and you're not writing the books and you're not doing the courses and you're not doing the speaking engagements, it's something that's in your way. It is your responsibility to find out what that is, what is in your way, and to ask God to help you move it so you can show up. And this is the last thing I'll say. When I went to church on Sunday and I shared it with Queen Des, my pastor said, and it's a quote by another gentleman, intentional mediocrity is sin. And I think about, just think about that. Intentional mediocrity, not showing up, choosing not to be your greatest self, is sin. Because you are the answer to somebody's prayer. And you're praying small, or you're being broke, or you're being mean, or you're being unhealed, or you're not having other women around you, that does not glorify God at all. It literally regurgitates the fact that sometimes women can't be trusted. And sometimes we got to go alone, and I can do all this by myself. And if Jesus couldn't go alone and he needed people, then how different are we? We need people. We need women. We need people in our space and in our circle. And so I just want to encourage you today, as we bring this to a close. I know Queen Des is going to be getting back on maybe some technical difficulties. Do not go alone. Do the work on yourself so that when God brings your sisters, that you won't make them pay for what other people did. That you will be a good steward over those relationships. That you will allow God to use those people in your life, those people that he brings into your life, to open up doors for you. And that is extremely important, because you're not going to be able to grow past a certain point until you deal with what is stunting your growth. And for many of us, it is what we've been through, the challenges that we've had. This one book that I'm reading right now, it says this: walking through the pain or going to therapy lets you know why you are where you are. But you have to, the only way through it is through it. And if you stay in that place of justifying your behavior, you're shutting down, you're not having people in your life, or not having sisters based on past relationships, you're in a place of sin, because God can't use you fully in the way that he wants to, because you're so busy protecting yourself. So you got to go through it. You got to go through the healing process. You got to give it to him so you can be all you need to be, so you can connect with all the women you need to connect with. And so that you won't be competing out here, but you'll be collaborating, because you know who you are and you where you're supposed to be.
I
You
love
like,
it. No, I love it. I love it. It's something you said, even when you talked about the witch in your life. It's so interesting. For me, I had to deal with the healing of when a sister is trying to be a sister, being able to accept it. Meaning, it was so when I called a queen sister who tried to share with me, hey, there's a witch in your community. Like, there is and I got so offended. Like, I got defensive, because now, what made you so protective of this group of people that when a sister is trying to warn you about something, you instead stop talking to her because you feel like now you got no this your community, these your people, you got to protect them. Like you ain't going when not knowing that everything she said was right, you
Mm.
didn't want to receive it because in your mind you had got to this level of naivety that you just felt everybody that God sends you is just right. Everybody is just great. So you got a sister trying to be a sister. She could have not. She's being a sister to you to protect you, to give you wisdom, to share with you, but you couldn't even receive it. So you stopped talking to her because you feel some kind of way that you feel she's attacking your community, attacking what you have, not knowing that that was an unhealed area that she.
Mm.
So I had to go to God and get it right, and then go to her
Mm.
because it was a me thing now. Because now don't ask for something that you're
Mm.
not ready for, and you cannot take people deeper than you've taken yourself.
Come on.
Business and ministry, you cannot truly help people reach breakthrough to a level that you've not broken through. And it
Yeah.
doesn't mean we don't still deal with things, but it has to be a ongoing process of growing, of healing, of evolving. If the last year's you, the 2-year-old you, the 5-year ago you looks back at this
Mm.
version of you and you don't disagree with decisions that you made, then chances are growth hasn't taken place.
Come on.
2025 me should disagree with some things that 2024 me did and said. My mindset shouldn't be the same. My thought process, yes, at the core, my core values and systems should be the same. The essence of who I am doesn't change. But if I still see things the same way I saw them and my perspective has not elevated and shifted, then there's something
Come
wrong.
on.
Growth hasn't taken place. So we got to go deep within ourselves if we want to take other people deeper. We can't be surface and shallow, but want to help other people reach heights and pinnacles that we're not willing to reach within ourselves. So it goes back to seeking God. God, shine your light from heaven on me. Not if you find, last time we say, God, if you find anything. No, when you find something, because I know it's there.
When you find
When
something.
you find that it's not like you let me see it. Bring it to the surface. You talked
Mm.
about how a lot of women were like, well, once I do reaches, once I get this, that's called the hedonic treadmill. It's always a if only I could do this, then I'll feel like this. If only I hit
Mm.
this amount of money, then I'll live like this. If only I can have this. But it's a never-ending goalpost because we're not dealing with the root of the issue. We're pulling, I always say root over fruit. We're pulling at the fruit of it.
Mm.
We've not gotten down deep into the root to discover, okay, what is this unhealed root that keeps producing the same fruit in relationships, in sisterhood, in business? So this has been good.
I do want to share this, and this is helpful for some of the women that are on here. In Matthew chapter 9, because we think that when you get to that place, then I'm gonna get healed. When I do this, achieve this goal, and so the world system says, you know, you do something, and then you end up being something, right?
Mhm.
But in Christ and the kingdom, it is, you know,
We have to
be,
come,
do,
have.
like you gotta be, do, and then have. And so in Matthew chapter 9, it says, as Jesus left the house, he was followed by two blind men crying out, "Mercy, son of King David, mercy on us." When Jesus got home, the blind man went in with him. Jesus said to him, "Do you really believe I can do this?" And they said, "Why, yes, master." He touched their eyes and said, "Become what you believe." And I think, for us, we think that when we get there, that's when we'll change. But you literally have to become what you believe. And in most of the miracles, most of the things, like if you want a sister, be a sister. You know, if you want to, if you have to shift your mindset and off. Like, there's no way you can. Like I already know before the money, before the courses, before the office, before any of that, I knew I was destined for success. So my job was to be, and being meant that I had to do the work. This is the part. Because we want to pray and we like, okay, Jesus, send me a husband, drop him off on the doorstep. He's not gonna find you inside your house. You gotta be, and so this is, I talk to my daughter about this all the time. She's 13 and I'm helping her to practice praying out loud, because what I'm saying to her is at some point you're gonna have to speak to the things in your household. You're going to have to speak to the spirits of your children. You're going to have to speak to the atmosphere. So you can't be afraid to pray out loud, because that's going to be something that you're going to have to steward in your house. So you better start now, when you can speak to the school bus and you can speak to your day, because then more responsibility is going to come, and it's going to be kids and emotions and friends and people. And you got to make sure you can hear real good, but that you can speak into the day. And so for many of us, we are just getting prepared for right now. But God is saying, I need you healed so that when I send you, you can really be who they think you're supposed to be, and not get there and you can't stay there.
Yeah.
Because we have seen this in the gospel. We've seen people that we looked up to and that we thought were there, and we going to conferences and we getting so excited, and then it becomes disappointing because they didn't have, when you have sisters, y'all, when you have sisters, they gonna remind you of who you supposed to be. It's not gonna be no condemnation, but they gonna say to you, baby, what do we believe? In the mid, like, who do we say that we are? And this is how you're expected to show up, even if nobody else sees what you're doing. They gonna be your sister and say, this is not you.
That's not true.
We're gonna pray you out of this. And so this is the danger of going alone. The danger of going alone is that when you go alone, nobody's checking for you. Nobody's praying for you. Nobody's encouraging you, and nobody is holding you accountable. So you may be able to get there, but you may not be able to stay there. And that's not the will of God. That's not the will of God. Is for when things happen in a family and things perpetuate itself over years, and women are catty or whatever it is, then God raises up a bloodline breaker to break the chains. But you can't break the chains just in theory. You got to do the work. And doing the work means by trial and fire. You going through the process and you trusting God all the way. So y'all, I'm excited about this series. We've been on here for almost an hour, and we were talking even before we hit record. So we've been talking for a minute, but y'all, we're excited. We're excited about this because, and I'm so grateful to God for you.
Likewise.
This is an opportunity for me to work with another woman to create what it is that I need, and you know who you are. And iron sharpens iron, but they both got to be iron. Yeah. They both have to be able to go through the fire. Iron don't sharpen Cuban zirconia. It sharpens iron. So it's good to have somebody that is of substance and that has gone through the same things. And I think one of the things that, kind of brought us together at the end of our first conversation, because you kept saying, I just beyond business. And I could hear you. I'm like, okay, Holy Spirit. And I was like, I'm going to be your sister. Yeah. Like beyond like the we gonna achieve some goals and we gonna help some women, but I'm gonna be your sister, because in this season, like, I don't know about y'all, but I don't want to go alone. Like, God doesn't have to command me to do this. I feel the exhaustion of going alone. That's the truth. It's mentally exhausting to not have nobody to go to and say.
That it reminds me of something that I've been telling God. And when you talk about the exhaustion, I completely relate, because I can remember just doing everything I can within my own strength and telling God, I'm tired. Like, God, just send me help. Like, I just need help. And not necessarily but just, I need help. Like, I'm carrying everything by myself. Like, I need help. And it took me back And it convicted me because it took me back to my mother who passed away a year ago. And I can remember when I went back home to Augusta, Georgia from Atlanta just to visit and found out she had breast cancer, stayed and been her full-time caregiver. She tells me and says, Destiny, you don't know how long I have been praying and asking God to send me help. But here's the thing. She was asking him for help, but she didn't have it anywhere around her. Versus we don't even necessarily just have to ask. We have it around us. We just have to pursue it. What we're doing now, we're creating it. She did not, she was not in a safe space where she could even create sisterhood. Instead, she just asked God, please send me help. Because she's dealing with this sickness that she told nobody about. And she's afraid to share because she's a first lady, she's a pastor wife, she's the go-to, she's all these things, and she's always been that. But now at this point, she don't have the strength to be that. But she cannot ask someone, please help me. Or she thinks she can't. So what programs us as women to even feel like we can't tell someone, hey, I need you. I need help. I need accountability. I need sisterhood. I need a friend. Like what is about that we're afraid to even be vulnerable enough to say that because of the society that's taught us that it's not okay to not be anything less than a strong Black woman or whatever nationality you are. That's programmed us in this toxic behavior that it's a badge of honor to do it alone with no help and never complain and never ask for anything. And we're programmed to think that's okay. And here I watched my mother literally die from that same mentality of not having sisterhood and not being okay with asking for help. So that goes back to say about not praying for it. Are you willing to become that and now do the work and receive it? That's all I got.
It's hard. It's a hard thing to do, and that's why we're talking about it. Because the more I'm like, the more conversations we have about this, it's just like so many women, first ladies, women just secretly, just the strong one, just going through things, and sometimes I know that these hubs and these places start with the right heart. My prayer always is for this relationship and for whatever women we come, because we know that it's tested, it's tried. But what God brings together, let no man can't come and take and put us under. It's nothing. So this is not, neither one of us had this idea in mind. And I believe that the reason why we're at this place where we almost are talking to the point of tears, like I'm exhausted, or we telling you stories of women, even her mother, that are exhausted. People are exhausted. Aren't you exhausted of doing everything by yourself? I know that I am. Okay, and it's time for us to have a safe space, and I believe that that's why God called us to do this. This is the answer to somebody's prayer. So y'all could keep us in prayer as we continue to bring this forth. And also, at some point, we're not going to tell y'all when, we are opening up the doors to our success and sisterhood community. This is for women who want to achieve a high level of success, at least 6 figures. If you haven't seen it yet, you can see it, but not the unhealed version of you. So you got to be ready to do the work. You got to be ready to do the work. And you have to be open to confronting those parts of you that keep you from keep you busy and keep you from doing the actual work that God wants to use to bring you out of obscurity and into the limelight. All of us have gone through this or are going through this in some phase or another. And we have a wait list link wherever you're watching this video, and you'll be able to be the first to know when we open up the doors to our community. Now, we said that we only opening up the doors to 20 women, and we are sure that hundreds are going to watch. Okay, so make sure that you go ahead and get on a wait list, because you guys will have a 24-hour head start. for everybody else. And when those 20 spaces are filled, not unless God gives us another open door to do it in another way, that's going to be it. And we serious about that. This is no gimmick. This is no sales strategy. None of that.
At this
We
point,
understand.
who got time for that?
Yeah, but healing in a larger setting is not as feasible. We want it to be safe. And so 20 women is the number that he gave us. And so we'll be back next week with another one of these videos. Look, y'all, the police is riding them down the street, but praying for those people. But anyway, we'll be back next week with another episode of Success and Sisterhood. And go ahead and make sure you guys get on the wait list. We'll be happy to invite you into the community when the time comes. You
and let
guys
us enjoy this. What topics do y'all want to hear about Success and Sister? What do you need? This is your sacred, safe space of sisterhood. So we want you to glean as much as you can and get on the wait list. Don't just listen. Get on the wait list.
Okay.